Come back to our center. So where do we begin?
Well, perhaps first I can introduce you.
Sure.
So we have today with us Peace Tribe Rising, episode 17, Mirabai Mirjana Dorozan, a coach and guide. Your focus is on loving yourself and the access to loving in the universe through loving yourself and your relationship with yourself. I couldn't even begin to describe what you do, so I won't try any more than that. But let me also just say that today we're joined as a co-host Walid. It's your first episode of the Peace Tribe Rising podcast, and officially you're my co-host today. But I'd really like our style to be just very conversational. Um, Mirabai, if you want to take the lead like you did with that beautiful exercise before, by all means, just feel empowered to do that. But our idea today is to have a really wonderful conversation and see what opens up. So thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Oh,
Please
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Matt. Really, it's a pleasure to be here, and this is an opportunity to be brave, an opportunity also not to teach, but to actually do what for us to be able to teach, to practice what we know. Hopefully, this dynamic, and I trust all of you guys, and I trust this. This is going to be wonderful. I'm sure of it. So thank you for being here, and thank you for allowing me to be here.
Hmm.
It's our pleasure. It's good to have you on the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Walid, it's such a pleasure getting to know you. This is my second round with you, but your energies are quite amazing. Um, and
Thank you.
real, raw, genuine. Um, I can sense that from you, and such a gift to connect with you, genuinely. So thank you, Matt, for this amazing connection. Yeah, I'm grateful to be here, um, to be part of your mission and to support your mission, because I think your mission is so vital to the world and so much needed. There's too many people that are suffering and dying and unnecessary losing their lives, and we need to learn how to bring love into our lives for ourselves so that we can really truly learn to love others and not be afraid of each other, right? And my teacher always used to say, boo boo boy, point the finger this way, not that way. Take that finger and do this.
Right, right.
Whatever you're saying right now, take the finger towards you and look at yourself, right? And I was really gifted to live with the mystic teacher from India for 8 years, who was not a part of isms, any isms, who was in direct connection with divinity, and who really taught me about the power of loving self, and self being the access point to your own divinity, an access point to your own peace, to your own wholeness, and how that ripples into the world, right? How it ripples into all of your relationship. You are wherever you go, and you're bringing your energy into the world, right? And And if you're bringing your energy that it's harmonized with your heart and you're not in internal conflict with yourself, you're truly able to accept and love yourself, or practice, if not yet there, but practice loving and accepting yourself. Then you're going to naturally bring that into your surroundings, into your environment, into all of your relationships, right? And my teacher used to say, if you're going to do something for the world, do something first for yourself. Bring peace within yourself. Learn to love yourself. And that's how you can help the world. If you can light your own candle, you can light thousands and millions of candles, because you become that transformational point, the vehicle of divine through which love pours through you, and transforms others. And so that's my mission. That's my mission in this life, is to bring awareness to relationship with self, to bring love towards self, not in a sort of cliche way that you heard in the Western world, but in an embodied, heart-centered way, where you can truly create deep connection with your own inner child. My teacher was always very big on inner child, and cultivating relationship with your inner child. Because the problem is, when we disconnect with our inner children inside, we forget the essence, right? And we lose connection. And this is when we are like at risk of being really vulnerable to hatred and fear. To fear. My teacher used to say, fear is the root of all. Like he would used to say, fear has 118 branches. Fear coming in different forms and disguises, right? And part of the reason why I wanted to be here, if I can just contribute a little bit, and I'm speaking to young generation. I'm speaking to, to young and a just generation, our generation, but young generation that can really have the power to transform this world by choosing to cultivate love with self, so that they can show up with like full love and acceptance for others, and have space to hold space for others, have strength and capacity and resiliency to really hold loving space for another human being that may be wounded and reacting out of that place of wound, right? And so all of these wars that we are seeing right now, it's like reflection of the wars within our own selves. There's a battlefield within us happening every day. We're not aware of it because we don't take time to tune in. We don't take time to close our eyes and come back to this body that it's temple of our own divinity, right? I always say heart is your altar. The body is your temple, and your soul resides right in the altar of your heart, the altar of your heart, right? And I was fortunate enough that my teacher blessed me with his teachings by not teaching me. Walid, you said something about like, not teaching today, but, just becoming that. That's how my teacher taught me, by actually not teaching me, by being the example, just a pure model for me, living and breathing love and compassion, even when I didn't understand, like, Babajan, what are you doing? Like, you know, my little mind would just not understand. It took me sometimes years to understand one thing that he was telling me, but he was that. And when I started studying with me, he said to me, books, toss it out. I don't want you to read anything. Basically, it's like I secretly stole a book called Yogananda. I secretly stole when I was reading it because I was like, Pawajan, how am I supposed to learn anything if I'm not going to read any books? Like, what? And he would be like, boo boo boy, do you know the alphabet of your own Genesis? Do you know even how to read your own book of Genesis? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. He's like, exactly. You got to learn to read yourself. Why do you want to be in somebody else's school of intuition? Why don't you be in your own? Why do you want to read somebody else's thoughts who borrow their thoughts from somebody else and somebody else from somebody else? Why not come back to yourself and be in the school of your own thoughts and learn? And, and this is what he taught me. I was actually never a big avid reader anyhow, so it was perfect for me, But there was here times when I was just like, Papa John, what kind of teacher are you? You're not giving me any books. You're not wearing robes, and, and he would be like, "What do you want me to wear robes so you can believe I'm a monk?" And I'd be like, I guess so. That what you need to believe that when I say that I'm a monk, I need to wear the robes. And so he challenged me in every ways of thinking, right? That I've learned to pick up from the world, right? From my culture, from the environment that I was raised in, from all the experiences that I had as a child. And, if we are talking about creating heaven on this earth, which this earth is heavenly, everything is heaven. Like we need to create a harmony and peace within ourselves, bring healing to parts of ourselves that are wounded, that are not being attended to, the parts of ourselves that are crying and screaming for us to finally hear it. But what we're doing is like we are crying and screaming for others to hear us. But it's actually, we are powerless in terms of others hearing us, right? Can't make somebody else make them hear you, but you can hear yourself. Like you can honor yourself, you can listen to yourself. You can take time to be with you, with your heart, with that wounded part that needs love and care and compassion that it didn't get when it was a child. Because the inner child is a real thing. It's not a hocus pocus. It's not even a mysticism. It's not even spirituality. It's a real thing. It's the essence.
Wow, Mirabai.
Yes.
Like that's a lot to process. So like let's try to break it down, like try to simplify things, like because you said so many things that I'd love to go back to. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like like loving yourself. How can one love himself? I mean, I love myself. I buy myself the best phone, the best laptop, the best clothes, the newest shoes. I get myself the nice wheels, always looking good, smelling good, the money in the bank, always set. But still, uh,
That's
there's
superficial.
like exactly. So how can I really love myself? Is it by bringing myself gifts, material stuff, physical stuff?
No, no.
Is it why can it be with love, sex? How can it be?
Mm. Let me ask you something. You mentioned something about being angry with yourself because you feel helplessness, right?
Absolutely. That's
Can you love the helpless part of yourself? Can you truly show up with compassion and kindness and love and hold that part that feels helpless? Those are the
I'll tell you,
parts.
I'll tell you something. If I can do it, anyone else can do it. Because it couldn't have been as hopeless and helpless as it was for me. And I'm surprised. And I'm not trying to jinx it, that's sure, but I'm grateful. But again, because if I'm not my own hero, who's gonna be the hero for my story? And like you said, we keep crying for others, but and when doing so, we give them the steering wheel for them to drive us. So no, they don't even know how to drive themselves. So I
Exactly.
should no, I should drive my own car, and I'm regardless of what engine, what kind of wheels I have, what kind of rims, it doesn't matter the suspension. It's my car, and I'm happy that hey, I have a car, and I'm proud of it. I always want to take care of it. And there's this old saying about men, they know the details of their car, no matter how complicated, but they still won't be able to know their women. That aside, it's gender neutral. It's everyone's car and you can drive it and it's beautiful. How to do it? How, okay, you mentioned something about the internal conflict. How to identify the reasons of that conflict.
Yeah. So there's like a simple thing that you can do to begin to become aware, but it requires you coming back to your body. You see, life happens in the body, not outside of your body. So first you have to recognize that where life happens. So if you want to identify like, okay, I have a conflict about X and Y, Z right now, can't make a decision. I'm fighting myself. Let's just say I'm fighting myself that right now I'm angry. I'm fighting myself right now that I'm helpless. And I'm trying to push myself beyond that. Like, I'm like, come on, let's do something, Try to use really masculine energy to push through that. And you can't because that it's standing there, that you see it in the way of your strength, you know, of your power, is the very younger part of self that took root somewhere, like where rupture happened in your childhood life. There's a moment when that happened, a couple of moments where that happened. And that part of self experienced helplessness or anger or rage, but could not express it, because when we're children, oftentimes we're being suppressed with our emotions, because parents are shamed. They don't know how to deal with their emotions. They were told to shut up, they were shut down with their emotions, like anger and, greed and lust and exploration and curiosity, right? Children are curious, like life is magical for kids. It's like, whoa, like everything is like novelty, new experience, and it's magic. Life is magical. But the adults are disconnected from their inner child. So they don't have access to that world and they can't relate to a child. So when a child is being a child, not to mention the child is a pure feeling being. First 5 years of the child life, they don't think, they don't rationalize, they feel. They're in the moment, they're in the full present moment, they're in a state of oneness. And because they're in a state of oneness, they kind of feel like they're also the cause of everything, the cause of their parents' unhappiness, the environment that is happening, what is ever is happening around them. They also think that they caused everything. So they give themselves a lot of power. Right? They also give themselves a lot of power in a way to deal with the powerlessness situation, right? To get some sense of control. So if I'm perfect, if I do everything right, if I don't make a mistake, then everything is going to be okay. So I can try to fix the situation around me, right? And it's giving itself full sense of power. Maybe my mom and dad then will be finally happy and loving each other. Because for children, they're living in a state of love. They're pure love. They want to love you. They want to be around you. They want to be hugged. They want to talk to you. They want to be everywhere, wherever you're at. They're like hanging on your skirt, on your pants, right? And, as an adult, if you're in your internal state of conflict, and disconnected from your inner child, it's kind of like the child becomes a nuisance. Oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. Could you just go over there and play? Like, could you just, like, I can't hear, it's just like, go and watch a TV, go and play a video game, right? Or the parent might just yell at the child for trying to get attention, or even spank him or spank them or beat them, depending on where the parent is evolutionary, right? On their, in their state of evolution and consciousness. And so when it comes to like finding out, so all of those experiences, by the way, happens in your body. And by the way, when those like scary, painful experiences happen that for children extremely overwhelming, they don't have the tools to deal with it because they're not able to self-regulate as a children. They're depending on their parents to self-regulate. Your body produces neuropeptides for every emotion that you experience, positive or negative. It's metabolized by your body, but it's not metabolized when you don't have a capacity and tools to handle situations. So the body says, we're going to keep this, we're going to store it in your tissues, in your glands, in your organs. And when you become older and have tools, then we can release this. So the memory is literally like lodged in your body. This is why you have to come back to your body. Come back to your heart.
Imprinted in the DNA, in the cells.
Absolutely.
I just want to go back to the internal conflict and the rejection
So can I just
of.
finish because
Yes, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
that's okay. Because you asked me question, how do I? So I want to finish this and kind of
Yes.
wrap it up. And I know I kind of went on a little bit of tangent, but there's a reason for that. Like I need people who have not heard this to kind of understand a little bit of background to come back to why it's important to come back to the body. And so when you're having an inner conflict, you can do a simple thing. You can close your eyes, bring all of your attention inside your body, feel into that conflict. You can place your hand on your heart. Notice what it feels like. And then ask yourself this question. Have I ever felt this before? And when was the first time in my life I remember feeling this feeling? And just listen and pay attention. The memory will come up. It could be when you were 5, 7, 8, 10. But some memory will just surface up. Sometimes for people it doesn't even make sense. It's like, oh, I'm having this memory, but this doesn't make sense to what I'm. It's like, no, it's okay. Just be with it. It's rising up from your subconscious mind into your conscience. And that's how you bring what is unconscious into conscience, by asking yourself that question to flow back in the time so that you can actually anchor into that moment when that feeling took hold. But go back to your earliest childhood experiences. Like, when was the first time I remember experiencing this as a child? Did I ever experience this? Did I ever witness this? Because there's so-called vicarious trauma. There's so many clients of mine who say like, well, the anger wasn't directed towards me, but I watched my dad yell at mom. You're experiencing it, you're a little child. You don't know the difference, right? I watched my dad criticize other people, right? So now you start to be very hyper-vigilant to criticism. The dad didn't do it to you, but the dad called somebody else stupid for not knowing something. The dad might have put down, or mother have put down somebody else, and you watch this time after time, like what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. Oh, that's not lovable, so I can't be that. I can't do that, right? So even if it's not directed towards you, as long as you witness it, it happened. It happened as a child. So now I finally answered your question, and you're gonna ask me next thing.
No, I won't ask. I will confirm this because that's exactly what I was describing before we record this. And I didn't know it just happened with me. I just flashes and it just happened. So the idea now that I have a key or a tool with me is that yes, whenever I have a feeling, I need to just like focus and try to remember the root cause of this feeling. That's the trauma, aside from the triggers,
Right.
because that's my responsibility to heal myself, to be better, to do better.
It's each
So
of our responsibility. It's
thank
each of
you
our,
for that.
and also keep in mind that it's important to have also when you're doing this, you can do this by yourself, of course, but it's important also to have like a support, as somebody that can guide you through this, right? Because there's a power to somebody holding the space for you to do this, to connect with this, and to do this inner child work, right? Because once when you meet that little kid, you know, you need to know how to show up with kindness and compassion. Like looking at it, the next question is when you look at that kid in that moment, you connect with that and you feel what it felt like to be there. The next thing you need to ask yourself, what did that kid needed in that moment? Did it need a hug? Simple hug. Did it need it somebody to tell to that little kid, everything is okay. It's not your fault. I got you. I love you. I'm right here with you. So the next step is you becoming that loving enough parent to your own inner child.
I actually realized because I remember when I told you the blueprint for the voice or the way, the dynamic or mechanism for how to love myself, it took me back to my loving mother. And then I realized that I need to start mothering myself. And then how to do it, okay, I started to like listen to like the music of cartoon I was a kid. And it hit different. For the first time, I didn't dwell in the nostalgia and reminisce in the memories and the lost situations and environments of the early 90s, before the 2000s and the late 80s. And it just, no, I realized that I was missing myself. It's me who's missing. I'm missing myself.
Mm-hmm.
And and I found myself at that particular, or maybe I'm finding myself. I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that, yeah, I got it all figured out. I can't say
Mm-hmm.
I'm a finished article. No, still lots of work to do. And now that I know what's done, I also started to know how to do it. And this is an opportunity to not just share it with the world, but also learn and from your experience and share my experience and see if such an effort or voices of ours can actually reach others. Because I know it's the vibe that keeps attracting the tribe, and the tribe keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And no matter how we're looked down at as maybe fruity looty people, or that's fine. We embrace it
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because yeah, we are. There's no shame in that.
Mm.
And I believe that once we embrace it as a shield, there will be no need for sword to yield.
Yes.
And that can happen, yes, by loving myself, by knowing, and I think the key word, and why, because when I used to be angry and the helplessness that drives the anger, it's because I feel useless. Not- I speak for myself because I'm useless. And no, I am capable and I do things, and anybody can do things. Everyone is capable because if I'm good at something, I'm bad at something that you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
So we complete each other in that sense, and we need to trust each other
Mm-hmm.
because we're all professionals.
Yeah. But
In
the
that
most,
sense,
mm-hmm.
the key to losing and let go of the anger is forgiveness. I
Mm-hmm.
had to forgive myself
Yes.
for what I wasn't able to do back then for that child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also others, forgiving others for not knowing better, or not being able to do better. So I still, okay, I forgive them for what they do not know, and I forgive myself for what I could not do. And even if I can't do still, it's the idea of the forgiveness that for me gave me that sense of safety and peace,
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter anymore. Nothing, like, you can't hurt me. It won't hurt me again. Plus its power on me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's
That's,
beautiful, guys. It's beautiful.
yeah. It's powerful. Love is power. When you love yourself, that's your ultimate power. Because nobody can convince you otherwise that you're not enough and worthy enough of love, right? It's about you understanding that all these different parts of yourself, every single part, deserves unconditional love, and you choose to give it. You choose to give yourself that permission. You choose to love yourself. Because here's another thing. When it comes to divinity, I'm going to confess here. My relationship with God has been a long journey. Okay. I'm not religious. I never was. I was born in Christian Orthodox religion, but I turned away from God very early on because of the trauma I had, the trauma with my mother and the trauma with the priest that I had. And as a little kid, I couldn't just accept what the priest was saying. And I got really angry and I felt like God wasn't really, that's not the kind of God I want, right? I had the awareness of it. But I was a long journey also to come back to restore that relationship and to even learn for myself what divinity is. And divinity is love. It's a love energy. It's the energy that wants to give itself onto itself. It's the energy that nourishes, that nurtures, that gives, that heals, that protects, right? It's such a powerful energy. But in this world, when we are lost, we have forgotten our true nature. Our true nature is a loving nature. That's who we are. I don't identify with my name. I don't identify with any religion. I don't identify with my profession. I don't identify with any of it. I identify with love. And love is life. So if we are going against life, we're going against ourselves because we are life. We're going against our nature, divine nature. So when we choose not to love ourselves, we are choosing not to love our nature, and we're also choosing not to love God. And when I realized that, I was like, wow, whoa, like that hit me like when I realized that when I don't love myself, when I'm angry at myself, I'm actually angry at God itself. That I don't love God in that moment, that I'm turning away from God because I am that love, I am that creation of divine. And it was a powerful insight. And so it's really important to understand that self-love. Self-love is not giving yourself bath. It's not buying yourself BMWs. It's not like going on expensive vacations. It's not having a brand name clothes like Ralph Lauren or Dolce Gabbana and Louis Vuitton bags. You know, having nails, nice nails for women. That's not love.
But they look good.
They look good. Yes, it's
They
fun.
look
That's
good.
fun. That's fun. That's just fun. That's just like fun. That's just like,
And can't it be a way of self rewarding?
mm-hmm. No, I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that stuff, it's a superficial stuff, it's just the expression of yourself, but it's not love. Love is something intrinsic, internal. It's your relationship to yourself. It's your understanding of who you are. It's your devotion to love, to love yourself, your devotion to love yourself. Because you understand that when you love yourself, you love others. What happens like when you get angry? Matt, you have children. You come into your house, you've pissed off, you're angry. What happens?
The wuju is bad.
Wuju is bad, right? You stop loving your children. You're not loving your children the way you do, right? You're not angry at them, but you're angry at yourself, right? You're angry and upset with yourself. But the children
Yes.
feel the impact of your disconnection from your love from yourself. Now that energy is impacting them and they're feeling the hurt of that. So there is really no difference between yourself and your children. Whatever you're doing to yourself, you're doing it to everybody else. So when you're not loving yourself, you're automatically not loving anybody around you. They feel that disconnection. They feel that anger, even though it's not projected on them, onto them. But they feel
Mm-hmm.
it. It doesn't feel safe to be around you. It doesn't feel comfortable. They want to retreat. You're not available to them. They want to maybe share something to you. I'm like, oh, daddy's in a bad mood. I better like stay away. Right? But we need to realize that, right? That
What
when
if it was the other way around?
hmm?
What if it was the other way around? In the sense that the love is pure and true, but the other is so used to the toxic they can't recognize the healthy.
Well, yeah, I mean that's why we are doing what we are doing, because we can recognize that.
That's the memory, the cellular memory that you talked about. It's like it's
Cellular
still
memory,
there.
yeah, unconscious programming. You know, like when they say there is what we know that we know, there is what we know that we don't know, and there is what we don't know that we don't know, right? It is that area, and that's a huge area, what we don't know that we don't know, because we suppressed all of those experiences as a children, the moments when ruptures happen and our parents didn't attend to those ruptures to mend them, right? Because ruptures are going to happen. Let's face it. There's no way that they're not going to happen. They're going to happen. The problems are not the ruptures. The problem is what do you do afterwards? And the problem is how are you showing up when those ruptures are happening? Like, are you taking it out on your children? Right? Or are you just saying to your kids, listen, I really had a bad, terrible day. I'm feeling upset right now. Nothing to do with you guys. I'm just letting you know why I'm not feeling well. And I'm just dealing with these emotions, right? And the kids know, okay, it's not me. Mommy's having a bad day. You know,
Yeah.
having a bad day. They need to let go and actually do something. And the children are kind of seeing like how to actually navigate emotional world, how to take responsibility for emotional world versus like just kind of spilling it out and bringing it into home in a very irresponsible way, right?
Right.
And this is where self-awareness comes in, studying yourself daily, being in the observation of yourself, being observer of your own self. You know, we spend so much time observing everybody else, what they're doing, what they're not doing, how they're behaving, how they're offending other people. But do we actually spend time observing ourselves? How am I showing up right now? How am I showing up right
The repeated behavior,
now? Right. Like, do we ask
the
ourselves that?
repeated behavior. Mm.
Right. Repeated behavior. And those are the things that it's important to ask ourselves daily. Like, I'm always in observance of myself. Like, wherever I go, you know, it's like I say, I'm always in meditation. Meditation is about witnessing yourself in the moment. It's not about stopping your thoughts. It's not about controlling your thoughts. It's not about coming to a state of a peace. It's about learning to become present to yourself, to observe yourself, your own inner world, what is happening, so that you can make a different choice, so that you can like create a space between that and yourself and see enough to know like, okay, I can feel myself, I'm observing myself, I'm getting upset, I'm about to explode, but I'm just gonna take deep breath and I'm gonna like, woof, like walk away and just sit and see what's going on with this anger, right? I'm gonna be with this and see where it's coming from. Is it coming from some past, or is it something really that the person did it right now that stepped my boundaries, and my anger is telling me I need to communicate and let them know that they crossed my boundaries in a compassionate way, not aggressive, but compassionate, right? And so asking yourself daily, like, how am I showing up today for myself? What was I feeling? What was I experiencing? Right? You know, bringing gaze inwards. And this is like why we are, in Eastern philosophy and meditation, you close your eyes because you want to shut off all of the um, sensory input around your environment so that you can actually tune in with yourself and actually see what's going on inside your world instead of like picking up like antenna from what is going on around you. And this is the reason of closing your eyes and bringing gaze inwards, because then you can truly see like what's happening in your own inner home in the way that your ego is playing out the game, right?
Oh, Mirabai. I mean, you literally give us the map to the treasure, to the treasure island. I just, I just wanna eh, try to clarify and share with my own experience how I was able to do this, or process it and practice it. And still, the, the path is very long ahead. But um, uh, when I started listening to the music, to the when I used to listen when I was a kid, and before I was listening to music normally, and instead of thinking of others, now that I'm making the connection about observing myself. So, and while I'm listening to that music, instead of thinking of others, because it hits memories, and no, I was talking to myself. So every lyric and every song was about me.
Mm.
That's how I was like garnering, boosting, and enlarging that feeling of loving myself. And and still, this is like uh, 101 introduction to myself. This is something completely new to me. And again, I'm like a child, mesmerized and baffled by everything. It's like I see things for the first time, like you mentioned earlier. And today I did something very simple. There was this lady. She had so many bags with her. It's just like offered to help. I carried the stuff to her place, and she offered me a piece of mango, because it's my favorite fruit. And I felt like a 12-year-old, an 11-year-old, just like skipping and happy. Wow, wow. Like, maybe you used to do it when you used to shovel some snow, Matt, like it felt good. So it's to do things to others when they need it, when they see there is a need, without an expectation of having
Mhm.
something in return. You do things because you can do it. You do it out of love,
Yeah.
out of actually filling the gap, filling the need of the help, so that one day it will be pushed forward and someone will help you when you're in a gap, stumbling and need of help. And sometimes it's ups and sometimes it's down, and that's how it is. Another thing I want to add
Mhm.
in terms of or in observing myself, recently I was stressed out. I was doing 4 jobs, juggling too much and chewing more than I can buy. And um, it's just like like since the morning until like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. I should just shut down my laptop and my phone, and it's just darkness and quietness. And that's when I start talking to myself. I'm all alone, and that's when I start to hear the breeze and the wind and the trees and the leaves. And then I lift my head and start looking at the stars. And since that moment, can't, I just, I can't stop looking at the stars. It's
Mm.
wonderful. And yeah, and the idea of like closing the eyes, how about closing the ears for a change?
You
You know,
can.
the idea is, yes, the idea is to take out one of the five senses to enhance the remaining four. It will
Mhm.
help us also connect with our surroundings. It's um, it's a good technique. I truly recommend. I
Yeah.
mean, it worked with me. Why wouldn't it work with you?
Yeah, no. I mean, there's a practice in yoga system where you know, like you do your breath work and you turn out all of the senses, the eyes, the ears, and you just focus on the breath, the sound, right? They call it a humming breath. A really powerful one where you tuned everything out, right? Um, it's a really great way of regulating your central nervous system and grounding and really strengthening your vagus nerve, right? Um, because you know when we have a lot of history of trauma, right, the vagus nerves goes often offline when your system is moved in survival mode, right? There's, you know, your body has its own function and it's either in survival or thriving. It can't be in middle. It can't be in surviving and thriving. It doesn't work that way. It's kind of like a car. You can either put it in a drive on the park or reverse. You can put the gear in both places. And so our body is designed in the same way. It's either in the stress response mode or it is in the thriving mode, right? And so, um,
That's how miraculous we are. That's how adaptable we are to this concrete jungles we're living in that is
oh my God,
forcing the disconnection on us.
we are. I was listening to the scientists who were saying that the science have, they know this. They found out that the power of our brain is 100% more effective than AI itself. 100 times more effective than AI itself. Because it's a software. We are like the software. Like we're not like made up of like the material that the AI is made of. Like, you know, they're saying scientists found out now that our neurons and DNA are actually antennas that have direct access to the energetic field that holds all of it, that holds everything together. It's not that our neurons store memory. It's that they have like this sort of, it's antenna. We're living, walking antennas, right? Um, so it's interesting kind of to like learn about your existence also through science that supports the spiritual, you know, found findings. Like particularly like I'm kind of rooted in yogic system and Vedanta and some of the science around their mind and body, because it just makes sense to me, right? It made sense to me in the way they were presenting um, uh, God and religion to me in Christian Orthodox. It just didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense to me, and I couldn't compute it.
I think that's a good
I think you're
segue.
just,
Oh, sorry, Walid. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I think we're dancing around the root cause of self-victimization, of the feeling that we are victims, that we are helpless, that, yeah, this is stronger than us, that we're stuck in the, as hamsters in a wheel, we're
Yes,
stuck in the matrix.
yes.
That inability, that helplessness, that feeling of uselessness, that's the anger. And I used to think that anger is my fuel. I need more fuel in the tank. So
Mm-hmm.
the angrier I am, the more productive I am, the more assertive I am, the more good for myself. But no, I was hurting myself that way and hurting others in my way. And no, I need to forgive myself for not being able to do better and forgive others for not doing better and hoping that I can learn and others can learn and we can teach each other to do better. Because I'm not a victim anymore. I'm
Yeah,
not a victim. Hey, I'm a Palestinian. I can claim the victimhood card as much as I want. And anybody can give me the support, the sympathy that they think I need or want. But I don't need it. I don't want it anymore. I'm
right.
free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you hold the power, and that's when the power is when you step out of believing that you're a victim. I used to believe I was a victim. I wasn't raised in a war situation. I didn't experience things like you do, but my life itself, like my mom victimized me, right, as a child. I felt powerless and helpless, and I lived in that matrix of that time. But the problem was I didn't realize that I was out of it once I was out of it. So I lived in that victim state. And it was my teacher who helped me recognize that. And it was like a hard pill to swallow because also the other society kind of gave me the sympathy. They kind of acknowledged it. They validated my, victimization. They were like, oh, your mother is so horrible. How could you even talk to her? you know, Mind you, like, I always loved my mother. I love her insanely. I love her insanely. And she was horrible to me, you know? And but it doesn't matter, right? And so when I got out of when I finally like I was like, oh, okay, I'm not a victim, not anymore. I can do something about it right now, right? And that's what was the empowering moment for me. And this is what I call radical accountability. Radical self-accountability is equal power, right? When you can finally like acknowledge this, I'm not a victim no matter what is happening, right? That's when you can really tap into your power, combined with love.
By default, taking it away from others. They don't have the power over me.
Yeah,
Not anymore.
exactly. Exactly. Mm,
So it's individually and one person at a time. And hey, we got nothing but time.
absolutely. And it's really starts with yourself. I was like, yesterday a friend shared a story with me about this woman. I forgot her name. She was enlightened woman who like walked across America. Maybe Matt, you heard of her. She walked across America on foot with the toothbrush. That's it. No money, no nothing. Just decided to go on this spiritual journey. And she shared this one story where she got picked up by a guy, like, she took a ride with him, who actually had intention to rape her. And she got in the car with this guy and she got tired and she was in the back seat and she fell asleep. So the guy parked the car and left. And then he came back. When he came back, she was awake. And he said to her, he was like, I picked you up because I had intention to rape you. But when I saw you sleep like a child in back seat of my car, when I saw you, how much you trusted me, and I saw a child in the lap of God, he was like, I could not do it. He was like, no one ever in my life trusted me in the way you did, and you just met me,
Hmm.
right? Like the power of love and trust. in yourself, right? In your relationship to divinity, transformed this guy's life. He had a horrible intention.
I just want to respond by saying by being the devil's advocate here. Oh, maybe she was a lunatic. She was crazy. She was stupid, doing like that. She had it coming. Look whatever she was wearing, etc., 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 etc. That's the rationalization,
Mhm.
and the mind always plays tricks on us because the mind feeds on fears,
Yeah, absolutely.
and fears make sense. And we build the scenarios and we see the visions and we stay in our cages.
Right.
And no, it's just a house of cards. Once you realize that you can blow on it or touch it for it to collapse, it will collapse easily. Because
Mm-hmm.
the prison is just in the mind, really. Now, here, I'll share my voice as a Palestinian and talk to my Palestinian people. Yes, we are in a big prison. And yes, the situation can be worse. Actually, it can be worse by actually all of us being dead. But still, we're here as Palestinians. And we give the power to our occupier when we allow it, when we allow the occupier to control our feelings and thoughts. We should not
Yeah.
let our occupier make us angry. We should forgive ourselves and we should forgive them. We should forgive ourselves for that we were not able to do better before, and we should forgive them that they were not able to do better before. And we need to find a way forward, guys. We cannot continue killing each other.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, Walid. That's so beautifully said. You know, I always say when fear comes in, root in love. Don't allow fear to take you away from your love, because when it does, it separates you from yourself and from the entire world, right? And everybody has to. Here's what I think this is I feel like this morning I connected with my own divinity and sat and meditated and I prayed and I was like, what message really do you want me to say? Like, what is it that you really want me to communicate? And I think that when it comes to that, we have to recognize that the power that we were all given, the gift of God, regardless what religion you are, what culture and ethnicity, the gift that we all were given is the power to love. And we can all agree in every religious text, everybody agrees that God is love. God created this life from love so that it can experience love with itself. So everybody needs to ask themselves, what I'm about to do and what I'm about to say, is this alignment with love? Or is it against the love? This action that I'm taking, is it an action against the divine love? Or is it in alignment of divine love? We have that responsibility too, irregardless of what religion we are. That is the absolute truth. And if you are doing something that it's about to be against the divine energy of love, then you're not in alignment. You're not in alignment with yourself. You're not in alignment with the divinity, and you're not in alignment with anybody else. And it's sad to say that religion divides people. We have wrong people misleading people to divide them. So we need to come back to fundamentals. You don't even need to read Bible or whatever text your religion is. Your religion needs to be love. That's it. Love is life. Love is God. And that's what we all need to ask ourselves every single day, right? And this is a practice. It's a hard practice. It's not an easy practice. But it's also hard practice to practice what we're doing, which is killing each other and hurting each other and perpetuating suffering. That's also hard practice too. But it's
It is.
unconscious. It's unconscious. We just do it like automatically without thinking about it. We're just reacting. We don't really take time to pause and be with ourselves and with our own hearts.
I think so much of this
Mirabai,
cuts
mashallah.
really. Uh, did you want to
No,
continue
go ahead,
that,
go ahead.
Walid? Yeah, I was just
I
gonna
mean,
say this.
yes.
Go ahead, Walid. We could come back to what I had to say.
No, no, if you want to say something, please go ahead, Habibi.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think this cuts so close to the core, really, of this conflict, this relationship. It's like you talked about your teacher, how he emulated being a divine being and the relationship between the self and the divine. And it's like we're part of the divine. And if you look really at this situation, if we're going to call it that, the idea of religion and identity and how to best represent the will of the divine is so central to the way a lot of people think. But as you said, it's not about religion, it's about love and about respecting the sanctity of every individual, the capacity of every individual to have a close and intimate relationship with the divine. So that is like, it transcends the identity of a religion. To me, what is a religion? It's an identity, but as a set of practices and teachings and beliefs, it's a way to point us in the direction of that divinity. You know, close your eyes, pray, express your gratitude and appreciation to a source and connect with that source through prayer, through meditation, through acts of kindness and generosity. It's like all pointing us in the direction of what really is this central core that transcends religion. And
Yeah.
to me, as a tool to access this divinity, it's sort of a false distinction between a religion and any other form of wisdom or inspiration. If it's music or looking at a beautiful painting or going for a walk in nature, you know, go skiing for the day and like experience the temple of creation. It's not about the book or the belief system, or you have to identify with this prophet or this rabbi or this savior. No, the path is direct. Like we get to go straight to the source. Every single one of us, no matter your identity, no matter what city you came from, no matter who your mother or father is, no matter whether you're a refugee or your family was there 10,000 years ago. We all have that gift, that holy spark. So if we can just manifest that, we'll be okay.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't possibly agree with you more, man. The source, regardless, it's the same source. And what is religion? That's a great question. I mean, it was okay. Two definitions, the way I see it. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anyone here who is religious. Um, so forgive me for my truth. Uh, there is okay. The Abrahamic, any religion actually, they have that message. They have a divine message, Abrahamic or not, and um, it's the humanization of the divine that distorted the divine message. What is religion? It because to me, Matt, I'm sorry to disagree with you. Religion is love, and just like Mirabai said, we were created to be the partners of God. We were created to be, as you said, like what I understood, to be the partners of God. And that's why God created us. And that void that we feel, it is divine because we are divine as well. We are walking miracles. Every breath we take is a miracle. And we should be grateful. And we keep dwelling. We should be grateful for everything. And I think the most grateful thing that I am for would be the feeling of love and that connection with the source, because that love, it is that connection with the source itself.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing. And I wish it for my worst enemies.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for helping me elevate. Thank you for this opportunity, really. Thank you, Matt, for sharing this, because it's very important, the religious aspect and how people are so glued to the interpretation, the humanization of religion, whereby it became just a system of control,
Mhm.
whereby also the family became a system of control via patriarchy, yada, 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 whereby the love, the essence of the connection was distorted
Yes.
and became tools for control. But
Yes.
no, they are tools for love, and they should be used for the right purposes. At least I will try to do that. No, actually, I stopped trying and I stopped doing. I became it. I don't know
Hmm.
how to explain it.
Yeah. But that's the way to transform, to become it. To become it.
Uh, it makes sense, but it doesn't make any sense. All of a sudden, it's like I've been hit with a with a lightning of awareness, and the downloads have happening since. It's ridiculous. Yo,
Well, lead, I love you.
you're laughing at my pain, huh? You're laughing at my misery, huh? Okay, okay. I
I
see.
love you. I love
I
you.
love you too. I love you too. I love you too, Matt.
I
Wallah, I
love you
love you too.
too.
And I know we can always do better because there is always room to improve.
Yeah. When you say we can always do better, it's when I think about it, I think about learning about the nature of love. We need to learn the nature and the language of love. That's what we need to do. We need to every day align ourselves with that love, with divine love, the gift that Creator gave us, and the free will. Because guess what? We have free will. Free will to choose whether we want to love or not love, right? It's given to us. And what happens when we don't love? Oh my God, it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling in our body. Like we vibrate at different frequency, lower frequencies. We affect like everybody that we touch, like, and bring their energy down as we go along, right? Or we can elevate everyone else's energy because we are at the frequency with love and we're choosing to stay connected to our heart.
It's when we reach and fulfill the choice that was made for us,
Yes.
the
Yes.
complete circle.
Complete circle. You got to
And let me
return.
share something crazy. Maybe it won't make sense, but it will make sense. It makes sense to me. When I realized that, when I found out the tools to how to love myself, and I reached the point, yes, I am capable and I'm loving myself and I can do it. I realized that it's not about me, not anymore. It's about others. So
Mhm.
how can I heal? How can I help? How can I raise awareness, raise vibrations? How can I that because yes, when I make the choices and realize the choice that was made for me, I realize the meaning of my life and what am I doing here? I'm here to raise my voice to talk peace. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom alaikum.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done. And uh, it might sound crazy, but hey, love is crazy and blind because, and I realized something: love, trust, peace, repeat. Love, trust, peace, repeat.
Mhm.
This is my lullaby. This is my prayer now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My prayer is to become insane lover of God. That's all I want. I tell my fiance that all the time. I was like, you're gonna have a wife who's going to be insane lover of God. Who he is. Crazy. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, trust me. Trust me, I'm gonna be the insane lover of God. And I am. I am the insane lover of God. I'm insane lover of love. I'm love itself, that it loves itself.
Unfortunately, fortunately, that's why they used to burn women on a stick because of they feared it. They didn't understand.
Yeah. No. Yeah, they didn't. And this is like right now, we need to come back to our bodies, to our heart center, to our altar, and to connect and learn truly the nature, our loving nature, and the nature of love, because that's who we are. That's who we are. And there's nothing better than that. There's nothing sweeter. There's nothing yummier than that. There's nothing more powerful than that. My teacher used to say to me, he was like, "Little boy, one day you're going to come to this place where your mere existence is going to just touch people without you doing anything. You're going to just pass by somebody and somebody's just going to get affected." This is the power we have when we are in our divine nature, in our divinity. The ability just to transform things around us without even doing anything. Because, as science has already discovered, our heart has a magnetic field 10 feet outside of our bodies. 10 feet. So when we are walking towards each other, we're coming into each other's magnetic field. Our hearts are communicating. Open heart, closed heart, right? But it has that magnetic field. And that magnetic field can shrink the more you shut down your heart. Heart is magnetic. Brain is electric. And the thing is that what we need to do, and here's another thing I'm going to say to everyone, because I think it's really important. The way society has been guided and taught is with pure masculine energy. The thinking, the rationalizing, right? The logical mind, the linear mind. Our nature doesn't work that way. We're not linear beings, right? And so we are so dependent, we value so much intellectual mind that we devalue intuitive mind, the mind of the heart, that doesn't have this verbal language, doesn't speak it, it's alien. And so we don't know our true language. Our true language is a love language. And we need to learn our love language. That it's beyond, that it's not a language of the mind. And to bring the mind to serve the heart. So the mind is the masculine, the heart is the feminine, and it's coming together and supporting. The masculine supports the feminine to bring harmony within each of us.
And you talked about how when we're in our world today, there's this idea of being afflicted but it's those afflictions, which another word for that is the triggers, that gives us the opportunity to do this growth, to see the things that come up. And so sometimes people will say to me as a peacemaker, they say, how can you think this is the time for peace? Look what's happening. Everyone's killing each other. This isn't the time for peace. And it's funny, right? Because like that's exactly the time for peace. It's the time when you're afflicted, when you're suffering, when things are so terrible that you are forced to look up and say, is there something for me to get here? Is someone trying to tell me something? Maybe I bear some form of responsibility, maybe not even for what's happening, but responsibility for making it better at the very least. From where do we go from here? It's like you talked about free will. I think of it like a scale. You know, God controls the scale, but the free will is the 1% in the middle. So we get to determine, does it go this way or does it go this way? You know, is it maybe helping an old lady across the street or saying a kind word to a neighbor or helping a sick animal?
Yeah,
Like one little act of kindness out of our free will, as opposed to an act of impatience or hostility or anger, can make all the difference. It's like that's the thing that can tip the tipping point. And if we all do that, or enough of us do that, then we can have peace in the world.
yeah, we can. And it's so important to bring younger generation into this, to bring into this journey of bringing peace within ourselves and connecting to our true nature, the loving nature, learning the language of love.
And the
Hmm.
inner children, because we have, if I may, we have three: the 18 inner child, the 10-year-old inner child, and the 1-year-old inner child. The 18-year-old child, you know, when you're with the boys doing locker room, having fun. The 10-year-old, that's when you're being innocent and practicing that innocence, because after you're 7-year-old, your theta waves like perception is done. 90% of your character is built. So between 7 and 10, that's when you start clashing with the real world and exposing it for the paradoxes that exists. And I mean, I dare anybody to go and speak with a 10-year-old. I remember there was a show, an American show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So are you braver than a fifth grader? Because these guys are brave and wise. And we were there. We were those wise youngsters and
Mhm.
innocent ones. So, and that part is still within us. And that's why we're angry and frustrated, because we lost that connection. So connect with those children. And once we do that, we'll be able to connect with the children and the youngsters of this generation. Be able to
Absolutely.
find that common language.
Exactly. Absolutely. You know, I am like right now, like working with somebody who is 70 years old and working and connecting with his inner child. And it's so beautiful. And this is a being who he struggled all his life to love with love. He was afraid to love because he learned as a little kid that it wasn't okay for him to love the way he was expressing love. There was something wrong with it. There was something like he was raised in this sort of family where there was like a pure emotional neglect, right? No expression of love. And he's connecting with his inner child at 70, you know? And it's
And
amazing.
I think the prettiest thing about this, his tears of redemption. It's like he redeems himself. The tears, the cleansing. That's the most beautiful thing.
Absolutely. The most beautiful thing to connect with your inner child before you transcend this world, before you leave your body, to connect with your true essence in your own nature, to come back and to like come into the full acceptance and to learn to love yourself and to allow yourself to love. We're here to love. That's why we are here. We're here to love.
And be loved.
Absolutely. In loving, you're being loved, right? And love is expressing itself right now. We are in a state of love right now. We're in a state of love making right now with each other. It's in our words, it's in our voice, it's in our expression, it's in our attention. Like, this is love right here, right now. It's happening. Love is connection. Love is what connects. Fear is what separates us. Love is what connects us and unites us. And to the point where you said something about Walid before, like you realize it's not about you, it's like now about others. I want to say about that, that's absolutely true, because when you realize that self is others, that whatever you do to yourself, you're doing it to others, and there is no difference between yourself and others.
I
That's,
am you and you are me.
yes, I am you and you are me. Because whatever I do right now, you are experiencing it. If I had shown up with anger right now and rage, you would experience that. And there would be disconnection. You would be experiencing what I am experiencing. That proves that there is a state of oneness. We are looking for a state of oneness, but the state of oneness is already here.
Butterfly effect. Everything's contagious.
And within the oneness, we all have our own divine spark. Like we are part of the oneness as a unique and beautiful expression of the oneness. There's never been, never will be another Walid, never been, never will be another Mirabai, never been, never will be another Matt.
No, no, there will never be. That's the beauty of this. The life is so rich. It is so freaking rich and diverse and abundant that there will be never, never, ever in life anybody like any of us. Ever.
And that's exactly why we should always enjoy this moment, the now moment, not to dwell in the past and lynch ourselves for not being able to do better
Mm-hmm.
or failing to protect ourselves or. Neither should we dwell in the future because that's when fears control us. That's why we should always focus on the right here and the right now. The next 3 seconds, like 1, 2, that's what matters right now.
Exactly.
And to make every second counts, you breathe. Because right now I feel like I'm an oxygen addict. I'm addicted to oxygen. It's like I need to breathe as deep as I can. It's
Yeah. It's your connection to nature,
I'm
to,
grateful.
yeah, to life itself. The thing is that we bought into the illusion that there is a past, present, and a future. But the thing is, there really isn't past, present, and the future. There's only present. Right now, you and I, three of us, are creating our next minute, our next second, what we're doing, every choice we're making, every word that we're using. We're creating the next second, the next moment. In now, future is happening and the past is happening simultaneously. In here now, the future and the past is happening. What I just said became part of the past. And what I'm
Yes,
just and what I'm about to say is part of the future. And what I'm saying right now is what I'm
that's
saying.
what we should listen to.
Right.
Wow. In this attempt or effort to provide the map, at least sharing what happened with me, the map that I processed. So like it was after forgiveness, like, and then that self-denial, like where I deny myself and it's just about others. That's when I surrender. And what you just said, that's the natural outcome for the surrender. And when I surrender, I don't say like be surrendering in a defeated way. No,
Mm-hmm.
surrendering in a way that embraces. I am embracing, like I am embracing whatever is coming to me or whatever I'm feeling, even though it's overwhelming. And
Yeah.
maybe it can be a fire. And if it's a fire, then I'm the moth, and I'm not afraid of the fire. And once I reach the fire, which is the surrender, that's when I let go, became myself.
Mhm.
And now that I reached this point, the idea is to maintain consistency. And that's fine, days on, days off. I get it. But this now the question is how to protect my heart.
Mm. Do you really think your heart needs protection?
Mm, I guess my surrender wasn't full. Not yet. Well, that's me rationalizing
Right.
fear,
Be in the heart.
rejection, not accepted,
Yeah,
etc.,
be in the
etc.,
heart.
etc.
So one thing that I wanted to talk about surrender, there's two kinds of surrenders. Surrender out of defeat or surrender into trust. Two quality of surrender. I surrender because I feel defeated, or I surrender because I fully, unconditionally trust that this
Yes.
is working for that I'm experiencing. There's a gift for me.
Say that last bit again, please.
Even in this suffering right now that I'm experiencing, I trust that there is a gift for me, and I'm waiting for that gift to receive. Because there's gift in your suffering. It's your work, it's your job to find that gift. What is that gift? And that's
The
what my
sculpting.
hmm?
It's a sculpting. It's like like you're sculpting yourself, and the bigger the deeper the struggle or the deeper the pain, the greater the prize and the bigger the gain. So
The
and
suffering is the fire. Suffering is the fire. You being purified in that suffering, right? In Buddhism, they
yes,
say, if without the pain, we wouldn't make the change, right? They embrace the idea of suffering, right? That doesn't mean like, I love my suffering, but understanding that I am suffering because I'm in misalignment with my nature. That's why I'm suffering. I'm in misalignment with my nature. I have forgotten my nature, and the suffering is there to remind me of my nature, to bring me back to myself, to help me see the untruth, to help me shed things that are not true. But I took it as the truth when I was a little kid. I bought into the idea that I'm not enough, that the world is not safe. I bought into the idea that I'm not worthy enough, not smart enough, not beautiful enough, not enough, not enough, not enough. That there is not enough money, there's not enough abundance. The world is disastrous, right? I have to protect myself. And so
There's
that's
a
when the suffering happens.
there's a word that comes to mind, poignancy, where something touches you deeply and it kind of triggers a reaction. It's like to me that's the silver lining, perhaps, if we fulfill on the promise of what's available, at least, is to take all the suffering and all the pain of the war and just all the terrible things that have happened, not just since October 7th, but even going back decades.
Going back hundreds, thousands of years, we've been
Yeah,
war.
the beginning of time.
Already embedded in the DNA. We can go back to the first man.
Right. We've been in a war
Uh,
a long time.
yes. Yes. We need to stop fighting because
Yeah.
we're fighting ourselves. We're not fighting, like maybe we're projecting on the other our fight, that the
Mhm.
fight is within.
Oh yeah, we're totally projecting.
And yes, all the bloodshed that everybody got drunk on. Uh, yes, it has to be good for it. It's weird to say, but yes, it's good for us in the sense that it will redirect us
Well, yeah,
toward the right projection, which is
right.
peace.
There's the
So,
point, yeah, when there's a point where the suffering reaches its peak, right? That whoosh, it dissolves. Like it can't, there's like this peak building, right? Building, building, building. Suffering is getting greater, greater, greater. And they just like,
There's an opportunity.
right, for transformation.
well, all I know is that history favors the brave, and peacemakers are the brave ones.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, Walid. I acknowledge you for your courage. Just showing up, all of us just showing up and being willing to talk. And I think there probably are things that need to be talked about, and that takes courage. It takes a willingness to sort of speak your mind and hear opinions that trigger you and keep coming back to the table. But that willingness, that's the trust, that's the overcoming of the fear, generating courage. So, you spoke to the Palestinian people earlier. If I could say a few words to the Jewish people, it's like if Walid can become a man of peace, then any Palestinian can become a man or woman of peace. And we have this beautiful opportunity to embrace love. And we're part of the same tree, maybe
Mhm.
two branches of one tree, perhaps. So if we're fighting each other, we're fighting our own self, our own roots.
Absolutely.
It's not easy, but God, I've been studying David Guyam and his Kabbalah teachings, and he says you have to be willing to do whatever it takes for God. Abraham, he went up to sacrifice Isaac. In the Jewish telling of the story, at the last minute, God says, "Don't do it," and he pulled back, but he was willing to go all the way. It's the same thing today. Like, the Jewish people, we're willing to defend ourselves. We're willing to be tough when it takes it, but we should also be willing to be soft. Not soft in the sense of weak, but soft. It's really a strength, I think, to be able to say, we make a peace overture, we extend the olive branch, not out of weakness, but out of strength, because we believe that with the power of faith and with the power of our free will to say love is stronger than hatred, if we take the first step, like Moses took the first step and the waters parted, we can take the first step and extend the olive branch one day, one action at a time, whether it's Walid and I being here together, or someone being friendly to a coworker who's, a Jew to a Muslim to a Jew, whatever. It's like that little tipping point that we all get to be responsible for. It can be, that's all it takes.
how about walking in the fire like Abraham and destroying all the idols? How about that, man?
Yeah, we have to be
Because we
willing
need
to
to
go all
trust.
the way.
I realize something now. Again, it's really startling happening. Okay. because I realized that I need to trust. I reached the point that trusting, that where I trust that whatever is gonna happen or come to me is best for me, and I'm grateful for all the closed doors. You know. Now, and now when you mentioned the story of Abraham, so because now I'm trying to connect between life and death. Yes, it's the belief, the trust, to do the ultimate sacrifice, which is to sacrifice life, because there is nothing more precious than life. That's why we breathe. Now, that ultimate sacrifice, when it is done willingly, there is no need for it to be done.
Right.
So, yeah. Does this mean to fake it until you make it? No, nothing's fake.
No, it doesn't mean, but it speaks about fear and love, right? To sacrifice, it's about overcoming the fear, right?
Jump, just jump.
Right. And our instinct as a human beings is to protect ourselves from death, right? You know, it's like we have part of the brain that is designed and it's there, it's policing and making sure that we are always safe. That's why we are like on the top of the food chain, you know? Yeah. And it's about
We think
overcoming that animalistic need to survive and transcending into love.
we forgot that pain is what makes us alive, and we do our best to avoid it. And we forgot how to be alive.
Right.
So
Hence why we
live, do
play.
mistakes,
Mhm.
forgive yourself, learn, do better, move on, next step, next level.
Exactly.
Oh,
And I also want to speak to, before we wrap up, a little bit about transgenerational trauma. And this is really important. And I would have to say for fellow Jewish brothers and sisters, this is really important because you guys have significant history. But what tribe of people doesn't have a significant history of transgenerational trauma? But why is it so much important to deal with that and to heal ourselves? Because we are carrying transgenerational trauma in our DNA, in our body. And if it's not healed and we're not conscious of it and not aware of it, it goes sideways on us and expresses in the form of creating wars in our family, creating wars in our community, creating wars with our neighbors, right? So it's really important, um, when I hear, for example, about Jewish suffering and the World War II. I've studied that a lot in Serbia. My God, I watched so many World War II movies in Serbia, particularly. Serbia got really affected, and former Republic of Yugoslavia is like a hot seat for the war. Like we had war, World War I and II. And we already had a war in Kosovo, in Serbia, and we were ruled by Turks for 500 years. I mean, it's like a hot place where wars is constantly happening, right? And it's an intersection with East and the West comes. It's a central part of the Central Europe. So there's always like a fight for power right there in that region,
Yeah, it's where the empires meet.
where the empires meet throughout the history of time. But what I want to say is that for people is to reflect on how this war is kind of manifestation of unhealed wound around the past wars that you guys had to Jewish people and the fear that they experienced and how that's now manifesting in It's like this is spilling now into the war with their neighbors because they haven't healed their own wound and they're living in a place of fear, needing to protect, and I think it's important for all of us to take that accountability, wherever the war was happening. Because if we don't, we are bound to perpetuate the very thing that happened to us onto somebody else. My mother, for example, had a terrible home life. Dad died when she was 5. She heard her dad say, "Who is going to protect you now?" She got raped by her own stepfather at the age of 14. She got beaten by her first husband, had to abort a child when she was 4 months pregnant, and sign away a waiver for her life. Like horrible trauma. Horrible. Her mother was abusive, unhappy woman. She had a horrible life with her father. She perpetuated because she never healed the wound. She perpetuated all that anger, hatred, fear onto me, onto her own child. She used to say to me, "If you're not perfect, I am going to kill you. Even if you're my only child, I gave you birth and I will take your life, and not even God can help you." This is what I'm talking about. The power of transgenerational trauma. When it's left unhealed and we disconnect from that, and then we don't heal it, we will kill even our own children. And when it comes to war and conflict, we need to talk about that. That transgenerational trauma. And the newer generations have that power to take it and really work on it and to heal that, to understand that they're carrying that in their body from their ancestors, being in prison, being in a camp, feeding that right now in their present moment and informing their decisions and informing how they are navigating in the world. When I was doing healing with my mother's relationship, I saw myself, the image of myself, my mother, wrapping me in a blanket of hate, because that's what I experienced from my mother. I experienced the hate that she felt towards herself, but she wasn't conscious of it. She saw me and projected all that hate onto me. I was the enemy. I was never her enemy. All I wanted is just to love her. And so I'm bringing this back, using my life example to bring back on a macro level of, as a tribe, a culture that goes through trauma because of the war, and what that happens if it's like, left unhealed.
I think part of the challenge, well, first of all, you're certainly right that there's a legacy of what happened only 2, 3 generations ago. My grandparents were in Zagreb when the Nazis came, and they managed to escape on foot to Italy, and they lived under Mussolini. And my dad was born there, and then they came to New York when he was a boy. But so many of my family perished in the gas chambers and the ovens of Auschwitz, and I don't even know where they were, but like, all these relatives that are just like lost to history because of the Holocaust. And I think part of what can make it more difficult to move on is when, the like as Jews, we're like almost like the object of obsession by the outside world, sort of projecting their own darkness on us as if we're the cause. And telling us how we should identify Jewishly, what it means to be Jewish, whether or not we have a right to live in our indigenous land, like just being colored throughout whatever filters people have of us, that we can't even like express our own experience and experience our own healing. But, to everything we talked about today, like this is our opportunity as Jewish people to reconcile and grow beyond that. Like there's something to be said for the first generation, the second generation, now we're the third generation. Like we're able to move beyond that trauma and learn from it and say, this is a moment where we're experiencing this pain. We have these neighbors that are here, they're not going anywhere, that are in pain. We're causing each other pain.
Right.
Like, I do think the past has to be at some point said, okay, it happened. But what matters, like you said, is the present, like this moment. Like, if we can experience our divinity, experience our love, experience our interrelatedness, Israelis and Palestinians could be the world's first sustainable society. The whole place could be a Garden of Eden. All we have to do is
That's
share the vision and make partners. Maybe each of us finds one partner. If each Jew finds two Palestinian partners, and each Palestinian finds two Jewish partners, before you know it, there'll be peace.
Right. But it's really important to do the inner work because, we cannot ignore that we have learned, internalized these biases, that we have unconscious biases, towards each other, right? And towards the world, Just for example, a lot of people in the United States are denying about prejudice against Black people. Hell yeah, there's so much prejudice against Black people. It's internalized biases that people even like are not aware that they internalize that. Like they don't realize that's internalized bias and they learn to fear, right? And those are the things that we really need to talk about it. I know, you know, in Serbia, like, being occupied by Turks for 500 years, you know, it 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 left a huge wound there, right? Being oppressed for 500 years. That's a long time,
Yeah.
right? A lot of things happen. A lot of trauma happens. Little boys were taken away from their family when they were 6 years old and enlisted in the army, and they forgot who they were. They forgot their family, right? And those are the things that, we have responsibility to heal, each of us, to heal our transgenerational wounds and to acknowledge the impact of the war that he had and how it shaped us. Because even though, Matt, you were not born into it, but your father and your father's mother, right? That's all part of your cells, part of your DNA, you know, um, and your children's as well. So it's not just like relational trauma that we got, in our own families, but we also have transgenerational trauma that happens from, macro level.
Yes.
I think we need
Yes,
to
we all have
unlearn
that
what we.
responsibility.
That's how we learn. By unlearning, we learn.
Yeah.
By unlearning what we were taught, we evolve and teach ourselves. Generational trauma, of course, it is. Like no one should debate that. I mean, this war, my grandparents' graves were desecrated. They were dug from the ground. My grandparents were kicked out from Asqalan, went to Gaza, and when they died, they were still being hunted down, Matt, even as corpses.
Mm.
So I understand it. I get it. They lived their lives, they suffered, and they're not with us. That's just the bones. The bones are not suffering. They're in a better place, and they look at us. They laugh and feel sorry about us. They cry. At the same time, they laugh because they know they're there already. I guess I was triggered when you mentioned the word indigenous, because this is the indigenous land. I was triggered because it refers to exclusivity, but at the same time, I forgave you because your emphasis on uttering such a word is derived and coming from the fear of severing your connection with the land as a Jew. But guess what? We're all indigenous to the planet, to planet Earth. We're all humans. And I understand this whole tribes and nations and political geography imposing itself as barriers. Hence the separation and hence the differences, and hence now we're living modern populism. But at the same time, if we are able to understand that me being me does not eliminate you being you, and you being yourself does not eliminate me being myself, whereby there is enough space that can tolerate both of us, uh, that is Eden, I suppose, is that reaching that understanding that the self does not eliminate the other and the other does not eliminate the self because both are one.
Yeah.
Uh, that's something to be discussed in depth later.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, which is that it's not exclusive. Like when I said that, I wasn't suggesting that your roots are not also indigenous, you know?
I understand,
Yes,
and I
exactly.
also understood your reasoning for saying, you know, and there is no need for such labels because that's the physical, the 3D game that we need to stop playing with, whereby we
Yes,
elevate enough to be conscious and aware to reach that level, and one person at a time. And we
Yeah.
can't save them all. We wish
Starting
we
with,
can, but
yeah, starting with self. My dad used to always say, he was like, Mirabai, it's like, we are just guests here. I'm just a guest here on this earth, you know?
everything is temporary. Our
Yeah.
feelings, our thoughts.
Yeah. But, nothing is really ours. My dad would say, my house is not mine. My wife is not mine. He would say that. He would say, but you, he was like, you're my daughter. You're my daughter. But everything else, nothing is mine. My land is not mine. He was like, I can't take it to the gravesite. What am I gonna do with it? You know?
that's cute.
And but he was really wise. I mean, he was a funny guy and I always laugh with him. And but it is really wise what he said. We are guests here. Nothing is ours. The land is not ours. We're putting such a claim on it. It's not ours.
Belongs to the animals.
It's here for us to come and play and share.
Yeah, all land is God's land.
It's divine's land. It's not ours. That's the greatest, that's the greatest illusion, like believing that this land is ours. What are you talking about? Like, it's everyone's land. It's the land where we come to play as divine beings in the human body to experience love and pleasures of life, like to taste ice cream, to smell beautiful rose, to make love with your loved one, like to make music, make art, make beauty, bring life into existence. Like we have to start recognizing that.
Yes,
That's
that's
why
what
life's
we.
pleasures are in the simple things.
Right. I mean, when I think about like Serbians came somewhere from Russia, migrated down to where Serbia is. Like, I don't know how many thousands of years ago. I don't know how many years ago. Uh, but but it's like, and now they're saying, this is our land. Well, yeah, it's been your land for last, I don't know, 1,000 years or whatever, but it was not your land to begin with. You came from somewhere else. You migrated. You came down and landed there and claimed as your land. right?
Yeah, the reality is
And it
very
became your
complicated.
land because that became the reality.
Right. But we can't forget that it's just a land temporarily. And there's so much to share here. There's
I'll
so
share with you one last trick I learned about how things are temporary. Um, when I stargaze, whenever a cloud covers the star, I'd feel bad. Oh no, shame. And even in that shame, there is a beauty until the cloud passes over and the star shines again. So even when there are moments when you're not bright, it's okay. Take care of yourself and you will be bright again.
exactly. Exactly, because you're always a star and you always be the star. You're always the light of divine and you always will be. That's just what it is.
I
That's
think I think this
100%.
positive note and positive message is the complete circle.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So should we wrap up?
Yes, yes, definitely. I have like next client coming in. I don't know when she's gonna come in, but she's supposed to.
Okay. Well, I could say just a
Uh,
few words to just wrap
yes,
up,
please.
and you
Yeah,
too, Walid, if you'd like. But what a great conversation today. I mean, there's just so much here that to me is so relevant to moving beyond all the mashugana, the craziness. There's just there's no I can't even try to capture it all, but just on the indigenous thing, Walid, like all of us are a mixture of indigenousness and wandering. And like you said, we're part of the earth. Whether we started here and came there, we started there and came here. You know, that's not to say a country can't have laws, but like we need to really emphasize our humanness wherever we're from, wherever we came from, and just do our best to respect that. So Mirabai, thank you so much for coming today, for sharing with us, for being part of this such an important conversation. And yeah, we love you. Thank you.
thank you. It's really an honor to be part of your mission and in any way to support your mission because it's really important mission. And thank you guys for doing this work because it's
Thank
important.
you.
And I'm here to support it. I believe in it. I believe in it. I'm a love maker.
Very
And
good.
peace
Wonderful.
maker. So,
I'm grateful. I'm grateful and peaceful.
hmm,
And um, like, yeah, this peace where there is no need to speak,
yeah,
you know. And really, thank you for being here. Thank you for helping us create this. And I really look forward to what can be created later on because this was a great opportunity, and I think this is the way forward,
yeah,
combining the heavenly with the existential, the hereafter with the worldly, uh, will redeem us, I believe. Thank you.
yes.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Love you guys. I got to
love you
go.
too. Okay. And
You good,
just a
guys.
word. Can you wait 30 seconds? Just want to
Mhm.
say a word for our listeners to come check us out, Middle East Peace Civic Forum. MEPCF.org, affectionately referred to as MEPCEF. Come check out our programs and future podcasts of the Peace Tribe Rising podcast and our Critical Conversation series, where we're just having these juicy and very important conversations. So I thank you both for being with me today.
Thank you for having us, and I invite our audience to follow us and join us on our journey to achieve peace. Thank you.
Yeah. Join us to this mission. We can do it together.
Yay.
Love
Okay.
you. Bye, guys.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Take care.